Okay, now,
You want to start over? Just tell us you're Gene Westenbarger, and you're going to tell us some stuff about your side of the family, your ancestors. So take it away. I don't have any specific questions though, so you're gonna have to lead this.
Okay, do the best I can. I'm Gene Arlen Westenbarger. My parents were Ralph Leon Westenbarger and Edna May Ricketts Westenbarger. I have a cheat sheet to help me out here. Dad's parents, my grandparents, his father's name was Elman, E-L-M-A-N. P, but I don't know if that's real or not, Westenbarger. And his mother was Viola May McVey, M-C-V-E-Y. And I knew my grandmother McVey as a child and on into my adulthood. But her husband, Elman, died in 1923 from cold exposure that he was submitted to because he worked for the railroad. And the railroad went on strike and he lost his job and they brought in scabs. He had to find other work, so he went to what would be the second glass factory in Lancaster, in which they made lenses. It was called the Lancaster Lens Company or Corporation. And he was grinding lenses which required water flowing on a abrasive wheel. And this was done outside, no matter what the weather. And he caught pneumonia and died from that. He died in 1923, and my father, Ralph, was a junior in high school at that time. He had to quit school. He never finished high school and get a job. He and his mother both went to work in shoe factories in Lancaster. There were at least 2 shoe factories there. And during his work at the shoe factory, my father lost the end half of his middle finger of his right hand. And so he always had that as a identification mark, if you want.
Memento.
So Viola Merle, if I said that right, Merle McVey, his dad's mother, was born on a farm near Albany, Ohio, north and west of Albany, Ohio. There was a McVey family farm, and there is a close by cemetery where many of the McVeys are buried there near Albany, Ohio. But when Dad died Grandpa died in 1923, and I wasn't born until 35, so I did not know my grandfather Elman. He and Viola are both buried in Forest Rose Cemetery in Lancaster, Ohio. Anyway, Viola was born on the farm and probably came to Lancaster seeking work after she got out of high school, and I believe that's how she and Elman got together. But after Elman died, 5 years later, grandmother married another man who had been a coal miner in Perry County. His name was Charles Schubert, and his wife had died, and he had at least one son whose name I don't remember at this time. But they lived in New Lexington, and Elman and grandmother had four children, 3 boys and a sister. My father was the oldest. He had a brother, Francis, they called him Frank, and he had a younger brother that was Irvin Westenbarger, who also lived in Lancaster and worked at the Huck and Glass Company. But their youngest sister, whose name was Helen, I think might have been Mary Helen, but she went by Helen, graduated from Lancaster High School. No, she didn't. She moved with grandmother to New Lexington with her new husband. They were married in 1928, so I believe it was about that time, and I don't know how old Helen was at that time. But Helen in New Lexington met up with a man and became pregnant without being yet married. They did get married before the baby was born, but my cousin Roger Newland, the father's name was Newland. Newland was a well-known name in New Lexington. Last I knew, they were still Newlands were still running automobile dealerships and such as that. But anyway, Roger's mother, Mrs. Newland at that time, died a few months after childbirth from some other ailment. It was not due to childbirth. And as a result of that, my cousin Roger, her son, moved in with Grandma Ricketts and Charles Schubert, Grandma McVeigh and Charles Schubert, Grandma Westenbarger and Charles Schubert. And so Roger, my cousin, is as far as I know, it may be still alive, but he's living with one of his sons over in Virginia at this time, the last I knew. So anyway, that's that part. Elman's father was Nicholas Westenbarger, who lived in Lancaster. I know where the house used to be, but it's been torn down. It was on Main Street in Lancaster. And Elman's mother was Rebecca Amaretta Friesner, and I have genealogy of the Friesner family also, about her sisters and brothers and things. Viola's father, my great-grandfather, was Benjamin Franklin McVeigh, who lived in the Albany on the farm in Albany. He was a farmer. I did not know him, but my dad knew him as a boy, as being the old man in the bed in the bedroom, not able to function. Viola's mother was Lena Alvina Downard. The Downard family, I believe, was also probably from the Albany area. I've been to family reunions of the McVeigh family, but I didn't know any of the people and only rarely went, but I just wanted to meet up with them. The other side of my family is Edna Mae Ricketts, who married my father, and her dad was Bertram Benjamin Ricketts, and he was the son of a preacher named Jacob Worthing Ricketts, who had several wives in his lifetime. But anyway, my grandfather was a worker. He was a house painter, and for a while he was a farmer while Mother was growing up. They lived on a farm near Thurston, Ohio, and Mother would walk the railroad tracks, which was the diagonal to get to school easier that way and back home again. She would rarely talk about her life on the farm because she hated the chores and basically life and was glad to get back to Lancaster. And I may have said it before, but she lost a year of high school as a result of that and had to repeat some things. Bertram's mother was Sarah Sherburne, and I believe she also died young and allowed Jacob Worthing to go find another wife. And I never knew her. I think I probably have found her burial somewhere, but I can't say that. Edna's mother was Ethel Marie Starner. The Starner family lived on a farm south of Lancaster in a little bump in the road, crossroad, that's now called, I can't think of it, so I'll have to come back to that. But grandmother also lived on a farm and was raised on a farm. Her father, her Starner father was George Griggs Starner, and he was the farmer, and I believe he died at a middle age. And her mother was Ida Elizabeth Starner, who was born Ida Elizabeth Fartig, Fartig. But because of that name, her family eventually dropped the R from that, and it became Fattig. So I always knew her as great-grandma Fattig. And I did know her. My great-grandmother lived with one of her daughters in Rockbridge, Ohio, when I was a boy. And my parents would take my grandmother Ethel down to Rockbridge to see her mother Ida there and have a visit on a Sunday afternoon. We probably did that, as I can recall, half a dozen times at least over the course of several years. And I was bored to tears there because there were no toys or anything to do. So I was outside, and there was a creek there, and I would play in the creek, and there were some other kids around, and we would play together while my parents and grandparents were visiting one another. So I think that pretty much bottles it up. as far as genealogy is concerned.
Okay. Let's take a break here.